Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanacharim Yamuna Tira Vanacharim Yamuna Tira Vanacharim Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayom Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivajakacharya Ashtotara Sadashri Srimad His Divine Grace Shile Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jayom Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivajakacharya Ashtotara Sadashri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradhayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Dvashe Namaha. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Would all the Vaishnavas like to come in a little bit closer? Very frequently, often in Sunday classes or most presentations, the topic tends to revolve on the need to take spiritual life more seriously, on an understanding that there's something much more beyond the body that we need to aspire for, on even practices of devotional service that we need to strengthen. It tends to be what the Sunday feast talks about. Occasionally, there are some special topics that are presented that speak about a type of life, a type of experience based on ecstatic love for Krishna that is of a different caliber of topic altogether. These topics are usually not presented quite openly because they're often misunderstood. If someone hearing Krishna's names begins to jump up and down and roll on the ground, it is seen socially in a negative way. Or even sometimes within our mind growing up, we used to think that, is this something odd, weird? Is there something different about this person? But it actually refers to the emotions of the greatest of the devotees. Today, the topic is the glories and the mercy of Lord Nityananda. His Holiness Jananda Maharaj had presented a wonderful class on this topic on Friday. However, this Sunday feast class is also dedicated to this topic of the glories and the mercy and the extraordinary sweetness of Lord Nityananda. Who Lord Nityananda is actually best understood when we understand what Prema Bhakti is like and what the aspiration to Goloka Vrindavan, what that path looks like. First, what is the special nature of the love of the residents of Vrindavan, and what is the path in order to get there? In order to truly appreciate the significance and extraordinary mercy of Lord Nityananda and the mercy that he still gives us, it is important to understand these two topics. Generally, it is said that there are 5 levels of practitioners. Now, the lowest level of practitioner is generally a worshipper of material nature. In fact, both the 5th and 4th levels are worshippers of material nature. The difference is, in the 5th level, people study, learn about, or try to acquire mastery of a material nature for domination. Now, a classic example of this is what we look at in our own education, or what people who have an educated scientific background try and do. They try and learn enough about the laws of nature to be able to manipulate them, control them, and facilitate certain articles of enjoyment. Simple thing could be how does electricity work, how do fans work. It's a manipulation of material energy for the purpose of comfort or enjoyment. These people, they don't recognize that there's a controller behind energy at all. They work purely with the laws of energy, and they don't even try and understand if there's a way they can harmonize with the natural pathway energies fall in. They just seek to understand enough to be able to change it, manipulate it, control it. Now, examples of this from a spiritual, not really spiritual, but more from a mystic standpoint, are the tantrics, or black tantrics in particular. They have quite atrocious means of breaking apart energy channels within their body, and to use those powers in somewhat negative or forbidden ways. The 4th level, again, represent worshippers of energy. But these people tend to harmonize with the energy. So you can think of practitioners like sometimes white tantrics, but also Reiki followers or healers in a natural sense. Or even you had Christian evangelists who would call upon the power of the Lord, the energy of the Lord, in order to transmit or act as a channel of healing for people in general. So this is also an example of this 4th level of conduct. The problem with these 2 levels of consciousness is that they don't recognize that there is a controller behind energy. They haven't come to that understanding yet. They see energy as a means to connect to people or to facilitate certain experiences. They don't see anything beyond that. The third level that the Vedic scriptures speak about is when people recognize individual controllers of different energies. So at the basis level, you can think about the Aboriginal people, who despite their apparent lack of civilization, have a higher level of consciousness than those who just deal with energy, because they would worship, for example, the fox spirit or the tree spirit or the god behind rain in some form or the other. They recognize that behind each of these energies, there's a specific controller. And understanding that is important, because every energy comes from someone who has or possesses that energy. Recognizing personality behind energy is an important step in moving forward in understanding how nature or reality works. But still, these three categories, third, fourth, and fifth categories, deal with material energy. They don't look beyond it. They don't even look beyond material controllers. Now, the second class of practitioner who starts to look beyond material nature and its controllers, so things you can just get which are transient. These are people who tend to look within. Now they understand that there's something beyond the body. They understand that there's something even beyond the subtle body. And they recognize the presence of the spirit soul. These practitioners often tend to use the things they normally do, like their work, their family life, or whatnot, to not so much focus on the immediate outcomes they can get. Whether it's an immediate promotion, whether it's an immediate progress in their career, is not the main thing that's important to them. What's more important to them is going deeper within and using the work that they have to understand a lot more about their internal nature. For example, a simple way to conceptualize this is when we are working, suppose someone is a manager. Someone can be a manager for the sense of power that gives one at work, or it can be for the money, or it can be just because it's the next step up. But being a manager also helps one develop certain qualities of accountability, of responsibility, making sure that one is coaching and mentoring those who are under one in a more personal way. So these are particular qualities that people focus on that are more internal. But any kind of activity, if you stick to it based on the factors of duty and commitment, they often require us to go a little bit deeper. As an example, take a relationship. People often enter a relationship and there's a honeymoon period where there's a sense of it's very new, it's very fresh, and it's very exciting. However, after some time, when you start to find out about each other's natures and you don't get things that are so much fresh anymore, it kind of stagnates and people start to wonder, where did that spark in my relationship go? And many people foolishly break relationships just looking for that spark or that excitement or that zest factor that they're missing in their life. But those who actually stick to a relationship, like a marriage, on the basis of duty and commitment, regardless of the highs and lows, they find in their relationship a deeper source of happiness that is founded on duty and commitment. It is much more than just an attraction, either physical or emotional, to the other individual. It is much more focused on something deeper that lasts over time, regardless of how their body changes or how their mind might change over time. And that connection, which is that happiness, which is of the mode of goodness, helps one go deeper within. Because those qualities that are required in order to sustain long enough to taste these happiness are qualities of tolerance or forgiveness or duty or humility. These qualities are essential to get there. These are all qualities in the mode of goodness. And it allows us to see through reality a lot more than just looking for the immediate taste. So those practitioners who are the second level, they understand this. And they engage in their respective duties from the point of view of trying to develop these inherent qualities of the spirit soul and to bring them out. They also they also understand the presence not just of material nature, but that beyond material nature and even the spirit soul, there is a controller. They don't have a full relationship with that controller, nor do they seek to understand him or have or do everything for the sake of that relationship. Rather, they offer their activities performed in the mode of goodness to that controller in order to go deeper within. This practice is technically called Nishkama Karma Yoga, and it is predominant at the second stage of practice. Now, the Bhagavad Gita begins its instruction at this level. It doesn't focus on levels 3, 4, and 5. Rather, it speaks disparagingly about these levels, saying that it's really temporary and one should not focus on it. But the difference between the second and the first level of practitioner is that the first level of practitioner not only recognizes the presence of spirit and the controller of spirit, but there's a much better understanding of the controller, of Krishna or of Vishnu. There's a desire to develop that relationship with him. And what this means is that if you're trying to develop a relationship with that eternal controller as an eternal spirit soul, one is recognizing the presence of eternal spiritual life or eternal spiritual activities or activities on the basis of the spirit soul. See, the second class of practitioner, as they're going through life, right from the beginning through to the end, they understand that, okay, I'm doing things as a child, I'm doing things as an adult that are slightly different, maybe more responsible and taking care of family, etc. And they understand that these are all material activities. They understand that they as a spirit soul are transiting through all these various types of duties and activities, and they have nothing to do with the particular nature of the body that they're in. So they're focused on uncovering the nature of the soul in terms of its eternal, deathless, its cognizant nature, understanding that it's completely unaffected by matter in any way. But they don't fully uncover the full activities of the spirit soul. But one who begins to understand that removing material activities is only halfway to uncovering the real activities of the spirit soul. Or even more, they understand that material activities are a reflection of original spiritual activities. Those people start to perform a type of sadhana that uncovers the activities of the spirit soul. And these are, of course, the Vaishnavas, who focus on the 9 processes of bhakti. Activities that are not at all connected to the body. They may use the body, may use the tongue, may use the hand, may use the feet in dancing, chanting, offering arati, or honoring prasadam, or use the mind. They use material elements, but they understand that these practices descend from the spiritual world. These practices are not stopped with spiritual realization, that they're both the sadhya, the practice, and sadhya, the goal, and sadhana, the practice. But this is where Vedic scriptures tend to stop. Even this first level of consciousness is actually a very rare and confidential realization mentioned in the heart of the scriptures. The Bhagavad Gita stops here. It doesn't elaborate in great detail about the symptoms of such liberated personalities. The Bhagavatam goes on to describe both the activities and the pastimes of souls who are liberated. But in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which can be seen as a commentary on the Srimad Bhagavatam, for the first time, the very activities of the liberated soul are described. The very name Chaitanya Charitamrita was translated by Srila Prabhupada in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya as follows. Chaitanya can mean Lord Chaitanya. So the titles from one perspective can be taken as Chaitanya Charita Amrita, the nectarian activities of Lord Chaitanya. It can be taken in that way. But Srila Prabhupada in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya writes that Chaitanya also means the conscious spiritual entity, the conscious spirit soul. And Charitra means activity, and Amrita means nectar or eternal. We sometimes say Amritatva, that to achieve deathlessness or to achieve the platform of immortality. So then Chaitanya Charitamrita taken together means the activities of the living force in eternity, or the activities of the liberated soul. The activities of the liberated soul and what they are described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And Chaitanya Charitamrita in some sense acts as a commentary to the Srimad Bhagavatam, because it describes very openly how the verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam, how they are to be understood, how they actually affect a particular transformation, and the highest level at which the Srimad Bhagavatam is to be relished and practiced. Now, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, of course, we understand that Lord Chaitanya came along with his associates. And each of his associates represent a particular energy or swarupa of the Lord. So it is said, Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. This verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita describes each of the Panchatattva and their respective features. Lord Chaitanya himself is the Supreme Lord. Lord Nityananda is his immediate expansion. Again, Advaita Acharya is known as, again, an expansion as a devotee, but he is also the Supreme Lord. Gadadhar Pandit is the Lord's internal energy. And the Srivas Pandit is is a manifestation of the Lord's external energy. Not external energy, the Jiva Shakti, the living entity. Now, each of these personalities, when they come together as the Panchatattva, they represent the Lord and his various energies, and they function together as a unit to share with us the highest treasure of love for Krishna, which is the eternal function of the Spirit Soul. In order to share that function, Lord Nityananda, who is Lord Chaitanya's immediate expansion, plays an extremely important part. Lord Nityananda is actually Lord Balaram himself. So this is described both in pastime books like Chaitanya Charitamrita or Nityananda Charitamrita. And it is said that just as Krishna had appeared as Lord Chaitanya himself, similarly, Lord Balaram appears as Lord Nityananda. The relationship between Sri Balaram and Krishna is very special. Balaram acts both as an elder brother and as a friend to Krishna. But his fundamental mood is actually one of service. That Krishna is the master of Lord Balaram is seen in a very specific pastime in the 10th canto of Bhagavatam. When Krishna had for 1 year, when Lord Brahma had taken away all the calves and cowherd boys, and Krishna had replaced everybody with expansions of himself. For 1 full year, Balaram didn't actually know that they were Krishna's expansions. And after a year, he noticed something very strange happening. Krishna was with the calves, and Balaram was there also, and they were at the bottom of a hill. At the top of the hill, the elder Gopas had come there with the cows, because the young cowherd boys would manage the calves, and the elder Gopas would manage the cows. So as soon as the elder Gopas and the cows began to just come onto the top of the hill, first the cows, they started running at great pace down the hill. Now that's extremely dangerous, because you can just trip and break your neck, and the cowherd boys were both astonished and angry. They ran after the cows. Hey, where are you going? Where are you going? Stop, stop, stop. And as soon as they started to run down, they noticed their own children were down there. And suddenly they felt an overwhelming sense of affection for their children. And they began to run at full tilt also down the hill behind the cows. And by the time they got to the bottom of the hill, the cows were licking their calves all over. And in fact, they were behaving towards the cows just as much, with as much affection as they would originally behave towards Krishna. And similarly, the elderly Gopas themselves, they began to deal with their sons as if they were dealing with Krishna himself. And Balaram was wondering, is this a trick of the Devatas? What is actually happening? And then he went on to say that it is actually not possible for Devatas to inspire in these residents of Vrindavan a type of love that they reserve towards Krishna, the Lord himself. That is impossible. And it can't be that this is just a trick of Maya, because Maya has no power over Krishna and the residents of Vrindavan. Rather, it must be that there's something going on here, something that Krishna himself has created. And at that moment, Krishna took Balaram aside and explained to him what had happened. It is this stage in the Bhagavatam that it is recognized that who Balaram is dependent on Krishna. He is considered to be equal to Krishna in almost every way. Just as Krishna has all 64 qualities, similarly Lord Balaram also manifests 64 qualities. And sometimes it is said that Krishna and Lord Balaram are both the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The only difference is in their color. The slight distinction is that Balaram is considered to be the Supreme Servitor Personality of Godhead. He is the original servant of Krishna. And in that mood of being servant of Krishna, in that mood of being dependent on Krishna, he expands himself in every possible way to serve Krishna. He expands himself as Krishna's ornaments, as the dham, as Krishna's bed, or even as Ananta Shesha. And in every instance, he supports and augments and adds color to Krishna's pastimes. And Balram's activities are somewhat very astonishing. In the entire battlefield of Kurukshetra, Krishna was very clear on whose side he was on, because the Pandavas were following the principles of pure bhakti. They were his servants, they were enacting his mission, and Krishna supported them. Balram didn't take any sides. In fact, he was, it is said, somewhat partial to Duryodhana, who was the very opposite of what Krishna wanted to achieve. And sometimes devotees have this question, I had this question, why is it that Lord Balram is giving so much time and attention to someone who's obviously a miscreant, who's obviously a detractor, and is taking people away from Krishna, and is performing such atrocities? And the answer is that Lord Balram's pastimes are extraordinary. And what he does is to augment and add color to Krishna's pastimes in the mood of being a servant. Similarly, when Lord Nityananda comes as, when Lord Balaram comes as Lord Nityananda, his fundamental mood is that of a servant of Krishna, a servant of Lord Chaitanya. And he always sees himself in that particular way. Even though, from the point of view of Swarupa, they're identical, and they both give Krishna. It is said that the jivas are an expansion of both. The jivas are the energy of Lord Nityananda as much as they're the energy of Lord Chaitanya. The internal energy is as much the energy of Lord Nityananda as it is of Lord Chaitanya. The external energy works under the command of Lord Nityananda as much as it does under Lord Chaitanya. Still, Lord Nityananda's particular pastime and mood is always as a servant of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Nityananda manifested his pastimes a few years before Lord Chaitanya came here. And the story of his life is how he has waited for the appearance of Lord Chaitanya, for Lord Chaitanya to start his mission. He appeared in a village called Ekachakra. This is quite close actually to Mayapur. It's probably a 6-hour drive in the area of Bengal. It's a village. In fact, this is the same village that the Pandavas stopped off in. And if you remember, when they escaped the burning wax house, they had moved to a particular village and they were staying in the house of a Brahmana. That village was Ekachakra. So in that same village, maybe about 4,500 years after the Pandavas were there, Lord Nityananda appeared in the house of two Brahmanas, that is Hadai Pandit and Padmavati. His appearance there was greeted with a lot of joy and a lot of affection. And this is described in this book, Sri Nityananda Charitamrita, written by Vrindavan Das Thakur. Vrindavan Das Thakur was a disciple of Lord Nityananda. Vrindavan Das Thakur is considered to be Vyasadeva in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. And he has also written the original book on the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, which is Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. But in any case, when he started manifesting his pastimes, it was very clear from a very young age that he was playing with his children in not quite an ordinary way. When he was playing with his children, he would reenact the pastimes of the Lord. He would be enacting, for example, the Putana pastime. And in one famous instance, when he was reenacting how Indrajit and Lakshman were fighting against each other, he himself was Lakshman, another one of his boyfriends was Indrajit. And they were fighting against each other and they were throwing flowers at each other in that pastime. So this person said, "Now watch, I will now throw the Brahmastra at you." And he threw a flower. The moment it hit Lord Nityananda was absorbed in the mood of being Lakshman. And he completely fainted, really fainted. The boys were extremely shocked and they were trying to shake him, "Please wake up, please wake up." They started crying. But it was some time before help came. People started, when they found out, they started rushing there. What has happened? How has this calamity taken place? And then one of the elder members of that community said, "What were you doing?" They explained what they were doing. Then he said, "Who was the one among you who is Hanuman?" And one of the boys said, I'm Hanuman. He said, you should go and get Sanjeevani Parvat, or you should continue enacting this pastime. You should get Sanjeevani, get a herb, that is the Sanjeevani, and the Gandhamadana mountain, and get the Sanjeevani herb, and bring it and reawaken Lakshman, or Lord Nityananda. And then the boys remembered Lord Nityananda's instructions. He said, when you throw a flower, I will fall unconscious. At that time you should not be bewildered. You should continue enacting these pastimes, and I will be revived. The boys suddenly got back into their roles and started again enacting those pastimes. They found Hanuman, the boy who was playing Hanuman, go and pick up Gandhamadana mountain, take out the Sanjeevani herb. Another boy was playing a crocodile who caught hold of this boy, and those two boys had a terrific fight. Then you had Kalanemi, who was another Rakshasa who was trying to stop Hanuman. Again, deception, terrific fight. Then Hanuman brought forth this Gandhamadana hill. Another one of the boys who was acting as a physician, I don't remember his name, but he went up to this region and he took this herb. And then when he mixed it into a paste and showed it to Lord Nityananda's nostrils, all of this was in the presence of all the residents of that village. And he brought those herbs and asked this young boy to smell it. Then Lord Nityananda just woke up with a beautiful smile. And then the villagers asked him, who are you? And how is it that you know so many pastimes? Lord Nityananda just smiled and said, these are my pastimes. But his entire childhood was based on reenacting Krishna, Sri Ramachandra's various incarnations and his pastimes. Soon, there was a particular sannyasi who came there, and he asked Hadai Pandit and Padmavati for their son, and he asked if he could take them away. This completely broke their heart. But knowing that they had made a promise to assist the sannyasi, they, with great pain, gave Lord Nityananda to the sannyasi. Now this sannyasi took Lord Nityananda and went away. And under the sannyasi, Lord Nityananda toured India. All this time he was waiting for the appearance of Lord Chaitanya. Leaving the sannyasi after some time, he then wandered through holy places himself and then waited in Vrindavan. He was waiting for Lord Chaitanya's appearance. When Lord Chaitanya appeared, Lord Nityananda began to dance and chant in ecstasy. Nobody knew what was happening or why he was dancing in this way, but he was just dancing in ecstasy. And now he was waiting for Lord Chaitanya to reveal his Sankirtan pastimes, because that was the particular service that Lord Chaitanya wanted of him. When Lord Chaitanya actually on one day, he revealed himself to be Krishna himself, and he inaugurated his Sankirtan pastimes. At that point, Lord Nityananda made his way from Vrindavan, and he came into Navadvip. He stayed at the house of Nandanacharya, a close associate of Lord Chaitanya. In fact, Nandanacharya's house is very close to the Mayapur Chandrodaya Mandir. And there he silently waited. Lord Chaitanya, he was aware of Lord Nityananda's presence. And he asked the devotees, today a great personality has come. Go and seek him out. And all his associates and devotees, they went throughout the village of Navadvip. And they were looking for this one personality that Lord Chaitanya was describing. They went and asked everybody. They looked in what they thought was everybody's house, but there was no personality that they could see or find. They came back to Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya said, okay, I will take you. The reason they were not able to find Lord Nityananda is because his presence is actually extremely confidential. It is said that just as when the living entity is wandering throughout the material universe, Brahmande Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jiva, Guru Krishna Prasade Paya, Bhakti Lata Bija. When the living entity is wandering throughout the universe, he can't on his own accord just decide, I want a guru, and then find him down the street. It actually has to be Krishna himself who, seeing the devotee's sincerity, reveals the guru to this soul. So, Lord Chaitanya, as the Supreme Lord, went to reveal Lord Nityananda's presence to the devotees. Lord Nityananda is seen as being the Supreme Guru, the one who's the best and the original servant of Lord Krishna or Lord Chaitanya is best positioned as the guru for everybody. And it is said that every spiritual master is a representative of Lord Nityananda and carries the Shakti of Lord Nityananda or Lord Balaram and teaches living entities how to serve Krishna properly. So Lord Chaitanya took all his associates and went to Nandanacharya's house. In Nandanacharya's house, they found this extremely effulgent and beautiful personality. His complexion was that of like a blackish cloud. He was wearing robes that were blue in color. And his eyes were decorated with tears that were a manifestation of his love for Krishna. He was extremely grave. The word gravity means that it is impossible to understand another person's mood or thought process. He was just extremely grave. All the Vaishnavas came silently into Nandanacharya's house. And then Srivas Pandit, who's one of the Panchatattva, understanding Lord Chaitanya's mood, he began to recite a very famous verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. It is said that there are 3 verses in the Srimad Bhagavatam that best describe Krishna's beauty, that are super excellent in their description. And one of these 3 verses, Barhapidam Natavara Vapu Karnayo Karnikaram, was the verse that Srivas Pandit began to recite. This verse describes Krishna entering the Vrindavan forest in a dhoti, which was like lightning, with color of skin that was like a shama, the color of the monsoon cloud, with red lips, blowing his flute, surrounded by his cowherd boyfriends, and entering the Vrindavan forest with a blue karnikara. It's like a blue lotus flower stuck behind his ear. When Lord Nityananda heard the description of this verse, his mind immediately went to Krishna. This level is a little hard for us to understand, and we can only understand it by understanding the state of our own consciousness. For us, even if we are trying to practice spiritual life or trying to chant the Lord's names, our mind kind of goes, we don't know how and when, but it goes back to matter. At the stage of asakti, which is not yet the stage of prema bhakti, the devotee doesn't know how and when, but even if they're thinking about like topics, like mundane topics, they don't know how and when, their minds just goes back to Krishna. And that transition is just immediate, without their even being aware of it. That is just at the level of asakti, what to speak at the level of prema, and what to speak of the type of prema that Lord Nityananda had. When Lord Nityananda simply heard this verse, or this verse entered his ears, he lost complete consciousness of his external surroundings. And he began to jump and spin and dance, and his ecstasy, because his heart was just expanding with love for Krishna. And when your heart is expanding with incredible joy, with that incredible sweetness of Krishna's presence, which is what he was tasting when he heard this Bhagavatam verse. It is said that every verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam is non-different to the Lord, and any one of its syllables is capable of giving one prema. And when the syllables just were entering, he was experiencing Krishna's presence directly. When a devotee experiences Krishna's presence with his eyes, he wishes to just continuously drink in Krishna's beauty. With his ears, he just wants to keep hearing Krishna's voice. With his tongue, he wants to be able to taste like the Krishna's skin. With his nose, he wants to be able to smell Krishna's fragrance. With his hand, he wants to be able to serve Krishna. But all of these functions, when they're excited simultaneously, it's like an overwhelming experience that completely overwhelms the mind with these ecstatic emotions. And that's what was happening to Lord Nityananda in a much stronger way than even what the great devotees would experience. And he jumped and he was dancing and chanting, and the devotees kept reciting verses glorifying Krishna, and they started a kirtan. And all the devotees spontaneously began to chant and dance, and their dancing was a manifestation of the joy and the dance of their actual heart. For us, we dance to develop that love for Krishna. It is a sadhana. For them, their feet actually don't stand still. For them, their hands don't stop moving. For them, they can chant and dance for 24, 48, 72 hours, or even a month. without being aware of their time around them. They lose external consciousness completely. This is what the stage of liberation is like, and it is extremely hard for us to grasp. For us to chant 16 rounds, or for us to even sit down and spend some time contemplating our spiritual life is very difficult. And it's almost in the mood of, okay, this is done now, what do I need to do? Or what do I need to do for myself? But those who are in love with the Lord, in love with Krishna, their experience of Krishna is so overwhelmingly great that their sense of happiness is when they have association with Krishna, and their distress is when they lose Krishna's association. And their hankering for Krishna just increases more and more. It is described that these personalities, their mind is like the ocean. It is completely undisturbed as various rivers of material disturbances enter or exit their mind. However, just as the ocean's tides, they sway and it goes well beyond its bounds when the presence of the full moon is there. Similarly, their ecstasy, their joy, their emotions are completely uncontrollable when the moon of Sri Krishna is personally present. The pastimes of Lord Nityananda are the pastimes of the greatest of the lovers of Krishna. And his ecstasy is not something that even perfected souls can ever acquire. His love for Krishna, his love for the Lord, is something well beyond what people can even imagine. But it was this personality who came as a servant of Krishna. Of Lord Chaitanya. And there's another instance that shows the enormity of his particular love for the Lord. When he was traveling just before Lord Chaitanya's appearance, he met another great personality whose name was Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri is described as being the seed of the tree of love of God, who is Lord Chaitanya. It was Madhavendra Puri who for the first time established the worship of Radha and Krishna. Before Madhavendra Puri, of course, Lord Narayan used to be worshipped. But Madhavendra Puri for the first time taught people by his own example how to worship Radha and Krishna together. His love was not based on the mood of necessarily rituals or of opulent offerings. His mood of service to the Lord was based on spontaneous love. And it was through him actually that ecstatic devotion was first seen in this world. Madhavendra Puri appeared before Lord Chaitanya and even before Lord Nityananda. And in fact, it is his devotion, it is considered that it is his devotion that has paved the way, that was the seed from which the tree of devotion of Lord Chaitanya sprouted in this particular world. So Madhavendra Puri was wandering throughout various places with his own disciples, like Ishwara Puri, etc. And he was looking for someone who could, whom he could share his heart, his affection for Krishna with. Now you can only share your heart with someone who has an equal amount of love for Krishna. And he had been looking for that person for a very long time. When he met Lord Nityananda, it was for the first time that these two personalities met, and they saw that they both had a love for Krishna that was completely matched. And at first, in front of everybody, they just held each other and they cried and cried and cried for a very long time, becoming conscious that there were people around them who wouldn't understand this. They went to a seclusion. And again, the experience of meeting someone who could remind one of Krishna was so great that they stayed in each other's association for several days. They neither understood whether it was day or night, whether they were eating or just lying down or resting, but they didn't sleep. Just whether they were standing, walking, sitting, talking, honoring prasadam, lying down next to each other, they were just talking about Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. This is the level of prema bhakti. It's hinted in the Bhagavad Gita, mat chitta mat kada prana bodhayanta parasparam katayantas chamam nityam tushyanti cha ramanti cha. So Krishna says that one who understands that actually there's nothing else in this world except for me. They understand that everything I'm seeking for in this world will be completely fulfilled if I simply worship Krishna. And they understand that they can worship Krishna through practices that are not of this world, like hearing and chanting. They come together with their mind absorbed in Krishna and understanding that Krishna is the very Lord of their life, Mat Gata Prana, they begin to remind each other of hearing of Krishna's name, form, qualities, and pastimes. These souls feel acute pain when they're not able to think of Krishna, or when they want to associate and serve Krishna but are not able to. That pain of separation is assuaged, or it is reduced by the reminder of Krishna and his pastimes by these other Vaishnavas. Bodhayanta parasparam, katayantas chamam nityam, continuously speaking about topics related to Krishna with each other. Tushyanti, their thirst to hear and chant about Krishna is nourished, it is satisfied, and the thirst increases. And ramanticha, they relish those topics as much as our acharyas say. A boy relishes the association or the glance of a beautiful young girl. For a boy, normally the sidelong glance of a young girl is considered to be the most secret and the most intimate thing that you can experience. It's like a very secret sidelong glance just meant for the individual you're glancing at. But that is what they were experiencing many times fold when they would remind each other about Krishna. So Madhavendra Puri, the full meaning of this verse is actually revealed in this meeting between Madhavendra Puri and Lord Nityananda. Lord Nityananda took initiation from Madhavendra Puri, and Advaita Acharya also, by the way, was a disciple of Madhavendra Puri. But Lord Nityananda thereafter was waiting for Lord Chaitanya's appearance and for him to start the Sankirtan movement. When Lord Nityananda came to Navadvip and his presence was revealed, his extraordinary love for Krishna was revealed, the devotees had a series of Sankirtan pastimes, both at Srivas Pandit's house, where every day they would close the doors, lock themselves up inside, and they would begin to chant and dance according to Krishna's names. The tumultuous kirtans were misunderstood by people around them, because at that time in Navadvip, you had people who were scholars, who were grammarians, who were logicians, but all of their logic and focus on Sanskrit grammar was simply focused on intellectualizing the scriptures. They really didn't understand the heart of those scriptures. But these devotees who would feel pain to see others talk in this way, they would come together and nourish each other by chanting and hearing and chanting and dancing to Krishna's names and his glories. So this is the type of love that Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda came to give. It is a type of love, it is said, that was never given before. The fourth verse of Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Anarpita charim chirat karana yavatirana kalau samarpayitum unnatojvala rasam svabhakti shriyam. And it says that anarpita, what was never given before, charim chirat, for a very, very long time, by any other incarnation, karunaya avatirana kalau, in this Kali Yuga, the merciful incarnation of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, they have come and broken open the storehouse of love of God. Generally speaking, even for the best of pious people, it is only that second level of self-introspection, that understanding of the spirit soul, that is revealed. What to speak of devotion to Krishna and what to speak of ecstatic devotion for Krishna, that was never before revealed. The level of surrender, the level of purity that was required for that level of devotion to be revealed was very high. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has not spoken about that ecstatic devotion directly. He's spoken about the path to surrender to Krishna, to himself, Krishna, and he's spoken about the practices that such devotees perform. But the experience of what these devotees have is not shared or revealed. But Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, they broke open that storehouse of love of Krishna. And rather than asking people to surrender immediately before they can experience love for Krishna, they shared that experience of ecstatic love for Krishna with everybody. And that experience comes in the congregational chanting of Krishna's names. When we chant and dance together in kirtan, or when we talk about Krishna together, that experience of how sweet Krishna is, of how great and extraordinary he is, inspires our desire to want to take shelter of Krishna. So with Lord Krishna, it was surrender first and then bhakti later. But in Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda's case, it was bhakti first, which causes us to want to surrender. That is their extraordinary mercy. And it wasn't just bhakti in the general sense of the term. It was bhakti in ecstatic emotional service to Krishna. The love of Goloka Vrindavan directly. This love is not even achieved by the best of pure Vaishnavas. It was hardly known to anyone. And that was the love that Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda came to reveal. And this verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita continues to say, Sadha Hridaya Kandare Spurutuva Sachinandana. May that Lord Chaitanya, may that son of Mother Sachi and his associates, Lord Nityananda, etc., may they always remain in the innermost recesses of your heart. It is a fact that Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, they came to give this type of love. And the songs our acharyas sing about Lord Nityananda, they represent a pathway to achieve this extremely rarely seen love for Krishna, the love that is present in Goloka Vrindavan. One example of this song is given by Sri Narottam Das Thakur in his book Prarthana. This is the song Gauranga Bolite Habe Pulaka Sharira. Who knows this kirtan? Who knows this bhajan? So this bhajan is put at the beginning of the book Prarthana. The whole book Prarthana focuses on the mood and the method by which love for Krishna in the mood of the residents of Vrindavan can be attained. And the very first song is an introduction to that whole path. So here, Narottam Das Thakur sings, Gauranga bolite habe pulaka sharira, Hari Hari bolite nayane babe nira. He says that when will that day come when chanting the names of Lord Gauranga, the hairs of my body will stand on end? And when will that day come when chanting the names of Hari, tears will flow from my eyes? The next verse says, Ara kabe nitai chander karuna haibe. When will that day come when I will get the mercy of Lord Nityananda? Samsara vasana mora kabe tuchha habe. Because by the mercy of Lord Nityananda, the vasana, the impressions of this material world, I will consider it to be insignificant. I will not care for them. What happens when those impressions are seen to be insignificant? When the mercy of Lord Nityananda or his representative as the spiritual master become manifest in our heart? Well, Vishaya chadiya kabe shuddha habe man. When giving up material desire, our mind becomes pure. Tabe hama herabo Shri Vrindavan. At that point, my eyes open up and I'm able to see the land of Vrindavan. Then Narottam Das Thakur goes on to say, Rupa Raghunatha pade hoibe akuti, kabe hama herabo yugala piriti. When I will take shelter of the books of Sri Rupa and Raghunath, or the 6 Goswamis, at that point, by their writings, by their teachings, I will begin to understand the pastimes of Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. And the last verse says, Rupa Raghunatha pade rahu mora ash, Prarthana Kuribe Sada Narottama Das. This Narottam Das Thakur always prays, may I stay at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Raghunath, and in that way achieve Sri Vrindavan. So Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya came to manifest this love, which is the love of the residents of Vrindavan. That was their special mercy. Through their particular activities, through his mood of service, through his ecstatic chanting and dancing, through his touching the hearts of various individuals, this was the love that was revealed. And Lord Nityananda is prayed to as being the original spiritual master, as being that personality whom our spiritual masters represent. So, therefore, we pray to our spiritual master as a representative of Lord Nityananda to remove our material desires so that we can actually see Vrindavan for what it is and approach Krishna. This is the importance of having that relationship with Lord Nityananda. It is said that Lord Chaitanya is only merciful to that person who first establishes a relationship with Lord Nityananda. In Lord Nityananda's own time, there was a predominance of people who used to neglect him, thinking that Lord Chaitanya is important, but I don't know so much about Lord Nityananda. His own mood of devotion to the Lord was very spontaneous, and he was known as an avaduta, one who's beyond scriptural rules and regulations. He was a sannyasi but would dress opulently. Even as a sannyasi, he would wear gold rings and several chains. And after taking sannyas, he was asked by Lord Chaitanya to get married so that he could support a particular function that Lord Chaitanya wanted. So he gave up the order of sannyas and took on 2 wives. And Lord Chaitanya personally appeared as Veerachandra, Lord Nityananda's son. But Lord Nityananda did all of this as service to Lord Chaitanya. People who were his contemporaries often neglected or considered Lord Nityananda to be strange, not worthy of respect. But Lord Chaitanya made emphatic, and Vrindavan Das Thakur and Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami repeatedly emphasized that without the mercy of Lord Nityananda, it is practically impossible. It is impossible to get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. And it is impossible to even contemplate understanding and achieving the love of the residents of Vrindavan. So this is the special mercy of Lord Nityananda, that he allows us to access the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and allows us to access the mercy of Radha and Krishna and develop the mood of love that the residents of Vrindavan have for Krishna in Vrindavan. So I think our time is up. We will stop here. If there are any quick questions, we'll answer them. Otherwise, we'll stop. Okay. Lord Nityananda ki Jai. Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande.